Now, one of the things I realized about the organic movement, it really is a family kind of situation where with organic farmers, they're not a kind of set of people that hold up information. If they have something that they know works or the process or something, they're always willing to share. They're always willing to share food, share seeds, share information. And that is what this movement is about. And so today I'm very excited to have so many other people that started this movement on to share the history because I am actually the baby of the bunch in terms of coming in. And it's interesting enough. I pulled some resumes and bios of folks, and I said to myself, really, do I really need to do that? Yes, I might talk about the academic accomplishments and that kind of stuff, but the what I really want to share is the interaction that we've had in us coming in on board in terms of the organic movement. So again, we're going to give everybody a couple more minutes to start. We're going to probably start about in about 3 minutes. And I'm going to take the time to kind of share about some of the activities that's going to be going on for Organic October. So Organic October is very important for us in the movement because we get a chance to focus on organic production and the processes and to really highlight the work that people are doing in the sector. Because often we kind of get overlooked. We're kind of like, the people that, oh, those little strange people that want to grow things clean, right? And so we really want to highlight not just for ourselves and meet and have that those conversations, but to really introduce more people to the movement. And so as things are, as we're doing more and more of this work, organic work and agricultural work, more people these days are looking to JOAM and looking to the organic movement for some solutions. And we've been very, very happy that we're going to do that. So this month is, as I said before, is Organic October. And so we start off the month with a podcast and we have an online meeting, which we had earlier this week or last week. There's a screening at University of West Indies of the movie Organic Rising. I really encourage everybody to come out and come to UE. The biology department is sponsoring the event. And maybe you have a friend or a neighbor or another farmer down the road that don't really understand about why we're doing what we're doing. This would be a great opportunity to really have them come out and from once you view that movie, you get a good understanding of what's been going on over the years and why we're in this kind of dysfunctional space around the food that we eat. We're going to be doing Genesis. We'll be doing two workshops, water management workshops, one in Trelawney and then another one in Clarendon. We have Rajay Malcolm is going to be doing that work with us and really looking at how we look at water as it enters our lands, or whether it's you're doing a backyard farming or you're on acreages of land. It's important for us to look and understand what happens when rain falls or you have access to water in some kind of, whether through a well or through a stream. So it's going to be important for that because everybody has a different situation and it's not everything is not one size fit all. And we really wanted people to be able to walk away from the training and saying, okay, let me go and observe my land and see where the water and how the water impacts it. So very important workshop. So please do register for that. We are going to be sending buses from different spaces. So in order to get on that bus, you have to register, right? We're going to be meeting also at the Ujima Farmers Market as well. So there's lots of farmers, the farmers that we have that are doing this wonderful work. They're going to be gathering. There's going to be food tastings and a bunch of different activities that JOAM will be sponsoring so that we can gather folks together, people who have already come to the market, but people don't know the market, encouraging them to come and support the farmers that are doing this amazing work. And we will be having another event, and I'm going to see if I can ask one of the current presidents, the president or current board members to talk about that activity as we go along. So I think we have people joining, so we're going to get going. So this podcast is a little different. Every week is a little different, depends on who's with us. And because we have so many amazing people here, we're not going to have any presentations per se, but we want to make that connection with all the people that started. We want to hear their stories and we want to hear what is it that they did. Did the things that we're doing now meet up to the expectations that they had set forth. So I really want to get an opportunity to have a very robust conversation. We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. We're asking folks to mute mute their mics if they're not speaking. Please remember to do that. And if you have questions, you can put your hand up, right? But also remember that we have 4 amazing panelists, and we only have about 90 minutes. Already when I started to put this together, I said, you know what, we're going to have a whole other couple of series of these conversations because we're not going to be able to get everything in. So this is the time. You'll have access to them. So please do, I'll ask some questions, you ask some questions, and let's see if we can really pull out from them what it is how did it start, and what are all the things that have happened over the years. And it's over 25 years, I think, of work, really serious, dedicated work. Most of the people that do this work, I would say all of us that do this work, we don't really get paid for it. So it's definitely a voluntary situation. And so for us to be doing this for so many years, trying to speak really truth to power, it says a lot. Okay, so I'm going to go ladies first, if you don't mind. And then we'll talk to the guys. So I'm going to first invite Dorienne Rowan-Campbell to the table. And Dorienne, maybe you can put your hand up and wave so people know who you are, so they can see on the screen. Excellent. So you cannot be doing anything with organic and not know about Dorienne. Dorienne, most people know Dorienne about the coffee that she does, but she has a wide depth in terms of the organization, and has always been an advocate for so many years with the work that around organic. So whether it's part of the inspection work she does, whether it is really a lot of advocacy work. So she's really a path breaker that she's dedicated to changing institutions and as to improve the lives of women, small farmers, indigenous, and oppressed people. So currently she's an independent consultant, organic farmer, and inspector, and over 50 years of committed effort providing institutional strengthening, capacity developing, training and policy, a big work around policy, advocacy, and program analysis. And I could go on. But most people that know Dorienne know that Dorienne she's just, I would say, in the organic movement, Dorienne is a warrior, right? So we're going to introduce, we're going to go along and introduce the rest, and then we're going to have everybody on. So Dorienne, thank you so much for being here and agreeing to be here. There are certain times, I just want to say was one thing. There are certain things that I know that once anything that comes up around policy or really the history of JOAM, I know that I have to call Dorienne, right? So Dorienne knows, she's there from the beginning. She knows all the policy stuff, from the stuff in Jamaica in terms of all the standards and into CARICOM. And I'm hoping that she'll be able to share some of that information with us as we go along. The next person I'd like to introduce, and you could put your hand up, Dr. Lindsay. Hi, Dr. Lindsay. Dr. Lindsay was also one of the people there from the beginning. He's done a lot of work in the sector, whether it's writing curriculum around this, being part of the ministry, being part of Boulders. He has a PhD in soil science from University of West Indies in St. Augustine, MBA from the University of West Indies. I've worked with him personally on teaching the first organic certification course that Hart produced. Very important for that to happen. So we're really grateful. And if you see his resume, is a book, right? Is a book. He has done a lot of work and definitely a lot of work in the sector. So he's going to be able to tell us a little bit more about that. Next, I am very excited to have Dr. Dwight Robinson on. Dr. Robinson, you can raise your hand so everybody knows who you are. I know it's on the screen, but just to kind of signal. So Dr. Robinson is I think we may have to update some of this stuff, but a senior lecturer, and he just, I would say, not stepped down from being the head of life sciences. I know but I think we all still go to him as head of life science. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say that. We all still think of you as that. As much as you try to say you're a senior, we know that we need something getting done, we're going to come and harass you. So we're really excited to have you. He has a BS in chemistry, He's PhD in etymology. And he's done a lot of work in terms of the management of arthropods. And I really know Doc because of the work at University of West Indies, but also the work that she's done, a lot of work in coffee as well, to look at some of the pests and try to create integrated pest management, and also the work in terms of at the Pesticide Control Authority. So this is how I am. And also with mushrooms. I keep coming to him and bugging him about mushrooms. So every time I get an opportunity, I do that. And last but not least, we have Raymond Martin. So Raymond, if anybody wants to complain about me being in or say anything, you have to blame Raymond, because Raymond is a person that introduced me to JOAM and brought me in. I have to just tell my story about Raymond. So Arunde actually said, "Oh, I want you to meet this person," and he took me to Devon House, and we started talking. I was introduced to Raymond, and before I left Devon House, which was about an hour, he had signed me up for JOAM. So this is how I ended up coming into JOAM, is because of Raymond, and we've worked together for many years over all kinds of different projects, commiserated about the sector, and I really highly respect the work that Raymond has done. And anybody that knows Raymond knows that Raymond gets in his little, is it a red car or is it a white car? I can't remember. It's a little car. And he will drive to any hill and valley. Anybody that is interested in doing organic, Raymond will jump in a car across the island and do this work, and has a lot of information. He works at UTech, and he's just been one of the people, the backbone in a sense, in making sure that the farmers, the grassroots, really get access to the material and the training that is necessary. So again, I would just like to welcome you all to the Farmer to Farmer podcast. And I'm really, really honored that you would take the time out to come and join us. So I'm going to just open it up, and I'm going to ask each of you to just tell us, how did you, just like I got introduced to Joe, I would just want to know the origin story. You all were there, each of you. I'll start with Dorienne, or whoever was there first. How did it start? Because we know that there are some other people that are not present today. But let us all know, how did this organic movement start?
Prior, may I begin? Prior to Job, there was a Jamaica Organic Growers Association, of which I was a member. We had some issues with that organization, and we decided that we needed to get a body which was more all-encompassing than just Growers Association, and that's the concept of JOAM. So it's not only producers, but consumers, researchers, students, and the whole community. So that's the idea of movement. It's not unique because the World Body, IFOL, they also have the same concept of a movement encompassing various different segments or sections. So that is how we decided to try to launch this organization. And the official launch was actually done at King's House, and former Governor General Howard Cook, His Excellency Howard Cook, he launched this organization. We had a workshop and fair, and that is where it all started. And then we have moved from strength to strength in terms of trying to develop different components. During my presidency, I was actually the first president, and I was followed by Dr. Dwight Robinson. And in that first dispensation, we drafted the standards for organic agriculture. We drafted the handbook. We got an office at the Ministry of Agriculture, and we were also able to train the first set of inspectors who could then work as consultants or farmers themselves. So this is where we're coming from, and as Nicola said, it's probably about 25 years ago. So I would allow others to pick up from there.
Could I just take you back a little bit? because in 2002 was when we launched, but we actually started the work to build JOAM in about 2000, 99, 2000, when we got funding from the Canada Green Fund, which allowed us to do some training. We had the Robin Crumewing at Greencastle Estate. We did a number of orientations to organic at his farm. We were finding our way. We also, through the money that we got in the Green Fund, got some equipment. We got some funding so that Dr. Robinson, courtesy of the Governor General, could run some tests on comparisons of organic as opposed to conventional growing at King's House. Only problem being that the person who was in charge of the Governor General's farm, although the Governor General believed very deeply in organic, he sprayed every moment of day and night if he possibly could. So that was a bit of difficulty. So we built a constituency before we had our launch. We also had one element. We had Brenda, who was very, very dedicated to wellness and health. So she handled that aspect. And
You said Brenda, but can you give Brenda's last name?
what's Brenda's last name? Raymond, what's Brenda's last name? She's gone. She's disappeared into. And I looked it up and I couldn't find it. But she was one of our early workers and then board members, along with Robin Crumewing. And so we worked on the ground in our various areas to build to that launch in 2002.
It's
But
Brenda
before you,
Warren, and she was a lawyer.
Yes.
okay. But even before that, you all must have been noticing something going on. Why you would even look at organic? Was there something going on in the agricultural system, or is it something that this just came from America and you started wanting to look at organic, or did you
No,
notice
definitely didn't come from America at all. I know
how?
that from my perspective, I always worked on environmental issues in my work. And when I decided to start and reinstitute my dad's little farm, everybody told me that the first thing I needed to do was to get this large drum in which I could mix pesticide and herbicide and fungicide. And I thought, I can't do that because that is not what I believe. That's not what I've been working towards. And I was kind of at a loss. And so I went to UW to see how I could get some knowledge, some support, some experience, because I really didn't know how to start. And I worked with Professor Mansing and Dr. Robinson. And in fact, I got a whole following of young men up on the farm because Dr. Robinson had some very nice looking girls who would come along with their counters and see what kind of insects were on the farm. And everybody wanted to know, what are they doing? What are they doing? Why are they doing this? But that was my start into organic because otherwise I could only learn about it online. And this is in 1991, 92, 93, when just to go online was expensive. So,
Dr. Robinson, your name keep getting mentioned. So we want to hear your origin story.
Okay, all right. Well, I can just endorse all that they have said. But for me, there's a particular time in the 90s when I was heavily involved in monitoring pesticide residues in the Jamaican environment. I was doing rivers in Portland. I know Raymond, he was doing Yalas and Black River. but we were involved in monitoring pesticide residues in rivers. I then started monitoring it in other things. And as Dorienne says, coffee was the main culprit because they were putting so much endosulfan in the environment. And so I felt that, there had to be a better way. We saw shrimp populations declining, everything. And so we started looking at that. And I started looking at alternatives to endosulfan. And that spread from coffee into vegetables, which is how we got involved with the Governor General Howard Cook at the time, where he allowed us to look at alternatives on his farm. And as I was doing that, and we were getting some results out and some success, because we started finding biopesticides. At that time, biopesticide wasn't even the name they call it. It's now the people are giving it this name, but we were just extracting pesticide from plants and testing them. And that's when Arundai and the late Blossom Buddha contacted me and said, listen, what you're doing so good, and introduced me to Joga. And that's how we pulled up with the team. But, before that, I was just happy to go up to Dorienne's farm, and because I was very happy to see somebody who refused to use endosulfan. And that was something that, given what I had seen from my research, I thought that was a good thing. And we wanted to do anything we could to help her to maintain her pest population at a low level without any of those things. So that's what got me into Joga. And then I was part of the team with Dr. Lindsay when we decided, as he said, to widen it and to move away from Growers Association. And so we started there, and we just, as he said, we started to build out the organization. He handed the baton to me, and I did certain things which I won't mention, different things, but we just tried to grow the organization, get structures in place, etc., build, set up certification programs, all manner of things to ensure that Jamaica would have a very vibrant organic industry, and sort of pull us away from the dependence on synthetic pesticides.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And Raymond, of course, you're being mentioned, so we need to hear your origin story. How did you get involved in this movement?
It's interesting. Dwight started the story by saying that we were monitoring rivers and finding levels of insecticides. But also, I was training farmers. And, to apply pesticides, it comes with instructions. Now, most of the farmers we were dealing with could not read the instructions. And so it was like, this is a very frightening situation that we have for farmers to use them effectively. They should be able to read a label. And so I said, but this doesn't make any sense. There must be another way to a safer approach, because I recognize that farmers didn't really understand the dangers fully. And the shocking truth is that endosulfan, which was being applied to coffee, was being applied to vegetables. Because as far as the farmers were concerned, it killed things. So I have things on the cabbage, let me spray it to kill them as well. But if you know the difference between the two, coffee, you take off the pulp, right? You roast it. With cabbage, you can eat it raw. So there is no degrading of the chemical. And therefore, you're literally poisoning yourself. And I said, no, there has to be a different way. And actually, it was Dr. Lindsay who introduced me to JOAM. So I was not part of JOGA. I joined as one of the first directors of JOAM in the new transition. And it's a journey which I had started, recognizing that the way we're applying pesticides, there's no safe way of doing it, especially with the illiteracy that was present in our population. We had to find something safer. And there was another thing that really struck me, is that there are farmers who would, they would prepare their land and they would dig a lot of holes, and then they couldn't afford the fertilizers. They couldn't afford the chemicals. So I said, but organic, there must be alternatives that can be developed. And the whole reduction of inputs was one of the things that drove me to say to farmers, listen to me. You can make your own natural pesticides. You can make your own natural fertilizers. You can reduce costs that way. And that's what really has driven me all these years through organic.
Thanks, Raymond. Really important information there. And as you speak, I'm not even sure if things have changed that much because, we just had this webinar, Pretty Dirty Food, and it feels like we are still at that point. And also, well, Dorienne.
I just wanted to say that I talked about the health aspect that we focused on in JOAM, mostly led through Brenda Warren. One of the things that we found based on Dwight's work, and I guess Raymond's work as well, is that Dr. White had done some studies and said to me, what is endosulfan? And we had a discussion. He said, I am finding endosulfan in 80 to 85% of the population that I test. And that's a very powerful, I would like to be able to get him to do some more testing so that we can take it to the farmers.
So a quick question, right? And this is kind of going off a second, but is that, Dr. is that something that is still being used in Jamaica? Is that one of those HHPs?
No, it's not supposed to be used. It was banned. But I must tell you that I don't know if any's left around. I used to see from my farm down onto the Wallingford farm, they would bring these big drums of endosulfan, and people would come. The drums are open. They would dip it out. They would put it into something and take it away, which is why Raymond said it was on cabbage and callaloo and everything else. I have not seen or heard of any around.
Just checking. Is it something, Dr. Robinson, is it, because sometimes they change the name on things, right? So I just wanted to make sure, is that still around? Just checking.
Yeah, we haven't, in the work we have been doing, monitoring stuff, we have not detected endosulfan.
Okay, great. All right, at least we know that. There are other things that we're detecting, but not that. It's interesting because sometimes even though when I say organic to folks, there's a pushback. Was there in the early days that much of a pushback? Were people more receptive? Because often now we say, oh, everybody, it can't work, organic can't work. What was the temperature in the room at that time when you would mention that, you're doing organic work?
Hot.
Everybody's laughing.
Hot. I've had we've had discussions with ministers, etc. Would invite. It was a little bit. Like I remember during my tenure, the then minister was the late Roger Clark, and initially started off a little bit negative, and then it's just a little bit unfortunate that usually it's when their health is impacted. So once he ended up with health issues, he was an advocate for organic agriculture. He gave us funds to help develop the thing. So it started off a little bit shaky. We had to fight. So even when he came on board, the people below him had a challenge coming on board. But as I often say, you try, to move with them, because we even ended up with one of our trainings where we were training inspectors. There's somebody who was the chief technical director, who was not on board, came and did the training and then became an advocate for organic agriculture. So we have had progress. Things have happened, but it was difficult. I remember in the coffee persons, I went down there to try to see if we could, because we were pushing, and Dorienne had her organic coffee, and they instead of working with her, they were working against her, and we went down there and they blatantly said organic coffee makes no sense. It's rubbish. That's the kind of pushback we got. I mean, you just had to take that and keep moving forward.
They still say that.
They still say that. Right.
They still say that.
Organic, well, you've seen what Jackra has come up with. Two aspects which fly in the face of everything we have worked for, in the sense that they think it's a really good idea to partner small producers with the chemical companies so that you get a flow through of information and chemicals to small producers. And the second, their plans for irradiation of produce.
We're definitely going to have a whole separate conversation around that because, it's in this day and age, we think we have a lot of knowledge. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons I think having that movie, Organic Rising, is so important because I think that a lot of people just don't really understand. And you almost have to put it in these sound bites so people get what is going on because we are poisoning ourselves. So I just wanted to look at some of the achievements because in doing the initial work, you mentioned about the ministry giving you something about the handbook, but I want to hear about the handbook. I want to hear about the standards because when I came on board, JOAM was actually doing the inspections, right? So can someone give us some more information about the handbook, but also about the standards that were set? And I hear these stories about that CARICOM barred the work that you guys did, and this part. Give us a real story. I want to hear it.
In terms of the handbook and standards, as Dorienne indicated, we got some funding from several places. Dwight Robinson was the one who was in charge of preparing the draft standard. I was in charge of the handbook. And we actually got a consultant from Germany who came and did part of it. I wrote a part of it, and then we got other persons to make their input into the handbook. And this has been revised substantially, so it's a much more detailed piece of information. But this has gone far and wide throughout the Caribbean, and I would say probably further afield. And this has been a standard thing which could help different persons. I guess Dwight could speak about the standards and its use by the Bureau of Standard and cross-Q because it is all over the Caribbean. So Dwight, probably you could tell them about the process of developing the standard.
I think that was Raymond who was the one who was kind of, I know that Raymond and I worked on the committee at the Bureau of Standards. Was that
that's a later
Raymond?
that's
the
later part, but the
Yes.
initial work with the standard was led by Dwight.
Yeah. When we approached the Bureau of Standards, I won't call the name of who was in charge at that time, and Dr. Lindsay will recall, where it was the hardest thing because when you're talking about an organic standard, an organic standard is not where you check something at the end to make sure the product matches certain things. It's applied to the whole system. And at that time, the Bureau of Standards could not understand that this kind of standard because for them, a standard says you follow a product, and at the end you measure it to see if it meets the standard. While in organic, the standard is applied to the process, and whatever comes out at the end of that process, it would be considered the standard. So it was very hard for us to get buy-in from the Bureau of Standards initially. But as was the case with others, times and things changed. And so eventually, they came around and they were more open, and that's why that was able to progress. But even before they took it on, that's how we ended up where we one of the things we formed in JOAM was a standards and certification committee. And so we would apply those standards to see if we could end up having local certification because we we felt that there was a need to have certified produce on the market. But from then we always felt Jamaica had started off and was leading in the region. And so there was a decision to help all our Caribbean neighbors to get there. And we were saying to them, you need not reinvent the wheel. We have already started something. And so we would share the document with all the other countries who had an interest to see if we could. We were even trying to get a standard for the region, but generally, sometimes things don't go as planned. But it started, and we the fact that Bureau eventually took it on is something that I personally was happy to hear that they had moved forward.
Probably Raymond had a lot of interaction with the Bureau of Standards and with CrossQ, so probably you could give us a short insight into some of that work.
Yes, but I wanted to touch on the point that Dr. Robinson made, the difference between a product standard and a process standard. Because even to this day, there are persons who are approaching us and say, I want to certify my farm, come and test the soils. And we keep telling them that it is not the soil, it is the process. You cannot be certified organic if there's nothing on the land that is being, you have to have production at least for a year. And so we still have that kickback where people still believe that standard is about the farm, how it looks and what. So come and test my land and see if it's organic. And it's not that, it's how you produce the crop. And so yes, that is one of the confusion that everybody keeps coming. But we are approached by the Bureau of Standards, and it was CrossQ at the time. CrossQ was responsible. I can't remember the name of what CrossQ stands for, but Caribbean Regional Standards.
Caribbean Regional Organization for Standards and Quality.
So CrossQ, through the Bureau of Standards, they were given the task of developing the Caribbean Regional Standards for organic. And so myself and Dorienne and several other persons from JOAM sat on that committee to develop the standards. So when we did the standards, Dorienne really was a tower of strength, because having done whole food production, and that she is passionate that the NOP in the US is a watered down standard. And we had to look outside of the US for a standard that was really maintaining organic integrity. How we're really looking, what the standard really does is that it goes through the process to ensure that what you have produced is not in a harmful manner, it's environmentally friendly, and it's also healthy. So it's a process. So you track the process, and there are many best practices. And one of the challenges we have faced over the years is that there are persons who go into organic because of the money. So because they can get a premium, oh yes, I want to go organic. And a question may be asked, why is it that we don't have many more certified organic producers in Jamaica? But many persons, when they realize what is required to meet the standards, they jump ship, because it's like they can't bother with that. They want a quicker way. So you realize that the mindset is not there for healthy food. We all know the history of many companies that they are selling you poison, but they're not really concerned, because the objective is to make money. So we had to go. So we went to the Pacific region to look at their standards. We looked at the EU to look at their standards, and we also look at the NOP. So we use several standards for the basis of to develop the CARICOM standard. So the CARICOM standard, as it is actually a strong standard, that if you meet the requirements of that standard, well, there have been changes over the years to the EU. So maybe a few points, maybe. There may be a few changes, but for the most part, the standards that we have we're done so that we protect the consumer as much as possible. Yes, and one more thing to point out is that the CARICOM standards were adopted by the Bureau of Standards as our national standard. And the hope was that it would eventually become a CARICOM standard that would be, we would be able to apply it across the region. But somehow we haven't, I don't think we've reached that point in the process.
I think the problem is that for it to reach that every country has to adopt it. So as part of ACARI, I've been really working to try to encourage the other countries. You have to get your ministers to go to the meeting. You have to adopt this. And then we will be able to have a CARICOM standard. The sad thing is that I worked a lot in the Pacific. So they wrote me and they said, we hear that in Jamaica you're doing something. I gave them a copy of the standard when Dwight was working on it. They took it, they ran with it. They have thousands of people certified now, and we have under 10. It tells us about the political will and the kind of misdirection. But we would really like to see an organic standard for the Caribbean in the same way that the Pacific has done it, so that we own what we develop as well as what we produce.
Dorienne, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, we've been doing some work in some of the other islands, kind of a grassroots work, and I think it's finally now people are really getting it, that they, in terms of just food security and just
Yeah, I think we temporarily lost Nicola.
mute. Hello there. You know, when technology fails. So yes, the computer, but you guys can hear me? Can you still hear me?
Yeah, welcome back.
Okay, great. So yes, as I was saying, that I definitely feel that the work in terms of the grassroots work that I'm seeing in the various islands, they actually, and people have a great respect for JOAM. People always are looking up to JOAM. When any of the work I do, whether it's in Trinidad or, you know, St. Vincent, people really do look up to the work that we do. And so I think it's finally now people are like, oh, okay, organic, because of the food security issue. And then also just more knowledge about all the chemicals, because before it was on maybe a handful of chemicals that were coming through, but now they're seeing, and of course the health, many of the farmers are having these health issues. So they're realizing, well, maybe they were sold a bill of goods that wasn't really a good thing. And so they're looking to shift. And also the younger people are realizing too. So more and more, I see that happening on the grassroots level, that more people are moving in that direction, that they want to go organic. Not even so much about the money, it's more about the health at this point. So I think it's just now, and so we have to do the work in terms of making those things available for them. And even again, maybe training up some more inspectors, because we did that work. And I think it's now time again to maybe get some more people out there, because with that, you're able to have somebody that you can talk to or will help you make that transition. What do you guys think about where we are now in terms of, you know what you set up, and we're in 2025. What else are you seeing that we could do as a movement?
One of the things I find, I've worked as an inspector for JOAM and also for the Bureau of Standards. And one big gap is record keeping, because many persons do not have the information which are required. So I think we need to get farmers or producers to have a look at the standards, so that they will realize what is required for the organic production. And then we also need to have simple methods of recording information. I know at one time Dorienne was trying to develop a system where farmers who had limited literacy or computer skills to record the information. But that is a big gap. Many persons who say they're organic, but when you interact with them, they don't have the information to verify that they are producing things following organic standards. And some of them have never seen the standards. It's just an idea in their head as to what you should do. And people are saying organic because they think they'll get a better price in the market. They don't want to say it's natural. They want to say it's organic. So that's a big challenge in terms of the verification process.
But Dr. Lindsay, I do have a question because if Joan, works so diligently with the government, the standards are expensive. The average person that goes there, the farmer, it's I think it's something that should be encouraged for people to have access to. But it's at least about $12,000-$15,000 to get the standard, I think. I'm not sure the price now, but I remember it being a little expensive. And I feel like I know that Bureau standards have to make some money. But is there a way that we can make it more accessible to people? Because the handbook I always recommend, the handbook is excellent. I know that you guys know Jim and Joyce, they helped write the NOP for the US, their national standards there. And they reviewed the work and said it was, it's excellent work. And so we always encourage people to purchase the book because it's really very well done, but also the standards. I'm also wondering why can we do anything in the sector to really get more people access to it? Because in the standards, there's also, it's really beautifully laid out. So you actually have some methodology of how to actually farm, because that's one of the things that people are like, well, how you do this organic farming thing? And I've gone through it and also the book, and I feel like that is a wealth of information of what is what you are supposed to do, right? Because since we haven't been able to get the other institutions like Case and Ebony Park to take up the training of farmers in terms of in the sector, that is definitely something that we could use. What do you guys think about that?
I think
You say you're going, Dorienne? Go ahead then.
well, I was going to say that my argument to the Bureau of Standards was that we did the work and they say they own it and therefore we need to pay for it. I simply just send anybody who asks me my free copy that I have online, and to hell with the Bureau of Standards. Because if we want people to have access, other countries say in support of organic, because we want farmers to have access, the standard is free. We're one of the few countries that charges so much money. And we're saying, if you want a hard copy, you pay the cost of the printing it on a computer. That's not going to be that expensive. But if you're doing it online, it should be free. And
Thank you so
I'm
much.
very, very offended at using our knowledge
Hard work.
and
Right.
then charging, and our hard work and then charging us.
Yeah, I don't recall JOAM charging them anything for it because we basically
didn't.
gave them a done standard, and I don't recall JOAM requiring anything at all because we wanted it to be out there. I'm sure if you look at the original JOAM standard and the one they're selling, it's not much different. So
No.
yes, we haven't even invested much in it, but
No.
they want to make money. And when JOAM did it, because JOAM is a voluntary organization, JOAM intended for those standards to be made available free of cost.
As
So we're
Dorian had said, it is probably the only standard that you have to purchase because most places you can go online and get a copy of the standard.
Yes.
And JOAM has always made its standard free of cost. But there is a challenge as an inspector. If you go to the farm and the person has never read the standard, then you're going to have a challenge in them meeting the mandate for the inspection because they are not certain about what they're going to do. So it's a chicken and egg situation, but you could also have a project which provides some funding, and then you could probably get, say, 50 or 100 copies at a discount price paid by someone else, and then you could distribute it to the farmers. But I don't think we have any control over the Bureau of Standards in terms of their charging for their standard. But it's one of the few places where you actually pay for the standard.
I just want to
So we
add
have
two
some work
things
that we need to do around
here.
that. Let's see how we can do. So
I
No,
think
I
that
just
one of the things that we need to do, and I find is important, is taking farmers through the standard very simply. Last year when I was trying to build what I called my eco warriors of the coffee farmers, we were looking at, didn't want to use the word organic as such because people get frightened, sustainable, but we were taking them through the standards, what's required, what's needed, what works, what doesn't work. And for me, that's a gap. There are two things that are a gap. People need help understanding in a very simple way what the standard says. And two, people need help filling out those endless forms. And they are endless forms. And we've done it before. And I think we have to keep doing it again. I think this is something that JOAM needs to do to help people fill out the forms when they want to apply for organic certification. I'm still frustrated that we couldn't get the icon-based diary. It's interesting, mostly because a lot of the foundations in Jamaica have strong alliances with the chemical companies, and there was no way that we could get that money. We thought we might have got it from CTA under their program, but they have closed. And right now it's very hard to get money from almost anywhere. But farmers, older farmers do need that. And we have been working with computer people at the university to, first of all, get what would be a hard copy diary, 1 page a day with pictures. So you just tick the picture of what you did and put the date on it. But at the same time, working to transfer that so you could digitize it very easily. And then we thought we'd be able to work with younger people in the community so they could help older people. But this was transitional, and we haven't been able to get that. I think we still need it because I still see that there are people who struggle with writing and making.
Record keeping.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and it blocks them. That's one way of blocking their ability to get certified.
Yeah, I think I think I agree with you on that, that we have to create ways for it to be simpler. But the thing is, the data collection is very important. And I think that's one of the challenges that we have, because it's data collection about what's going on the farm, but also looking at creating those budgets, because a lot of people, that's why we did farming as a business, because we said, okay, nobody's doing crop plans. People are just, oh, I want to grow this thing. And they don't know really if it's going to give them back any revenue. Maybe you have enough money for the seeds, but to take a crop all the way through, that's a whole different thing. And so as I think, I always come look at what happens in the US. One of the reasons that a lot of the farmers, they have a better handle on things because they have to produce information for IRS at some point that, how their farm is doing. We don't have that. And so, yes, some of it is because of the literacy issue, but also we have to get our new set of farmers to understand that the traceability is so important, to know what you've done, not just for somebody looking over your shoulder, but just even to know, like, what was the rainfall last year? What was the yields? All those kind of things. And I think that even though people are not necessarily saying organic, the work that we do in terms of the process that we have taken, I feel like more farmers they're going to have to go in that direction because they'll have no choice. So I know they've been signaling me that we have a couple more minutes to go, but I just wanted to ask one more question.
Nicola, if I could
Yes, please.
just
Yes.
say something in regards to, remember we have the grow groups approach to certification, which since individual farmers struggle to do it alone, the idea is to bring farmers together in a group, because that's how many of the Uganda and other countries like that have been approaching it, where they come together as a group. The other thing is that when we train the RADA officers in the organic certification, the agreement was that the RADA officers were going to would take on the responsibility of assisting the farmers with record keeping. And to date, that has gone to the. So unfortunately, because when they did Global Gap, that's what they did. Global Gap certification, the right officers assisted the farmers to attain Global Gap certification. So the assumption is that, okay, for organic, since we know that we have farmers who struggle to understand, we will therefore have to support them and have it as a group, a grower group. We have had a challenge getting the ministry to accept one responsibility for organic, and if the parent does not accept it, RADA will not. And so that's a challenge. Even though RADA have said yes, we are interested, and they have to get the mandate, and they have not gotten that mandate as far as I know, and that has been a challenge.
And they say that the mandate is the policy. And that's what they've been holding over our head for the longest time. Dwight, when did they start on the policy? 2003, I think the first
yes,
policy discussion started. And here we are now, 2025, and we have no policy.
I hear them talking about it. I don't know if that talk is going anywhere.
I don't know either. And then I have found that when you are trying to work on policy, the people they put to work on policy actually don't understand the structure of policy development at all. So it makes it even more difficult. Not only do they not understand organic, but they don't understand the actual requirements of policy, even though it's laid down very carefully by the Cabinet Office. And I say to them, but the Cabinet Office asked you to do this, 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 and this. Yes, but. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like every couple years, a new person comes into the office and then they pull it out and we have a meeting and then it gets shelved. And that's what keeps happening. And so I know that there's a gentleman that seems to be taking it, but I keep asking, like, when are we gonna have a meeting? And I think that we have to put a little bit more pressure on them for that. But there's so many aspects in terms of, somebody, I think in the chat asked about case. We really, when someone comes to me and says they want to do organic, I have a number of questions to ask them, like, where's the staff going to come from? Because we don't actually have enough people that are in the sector that's trained that they can even help the farmers. And RADA obviously is not necessarily taken on. We love the number of RADA officers that have been coming to the trainings, and we love them as people, but in terms of the mandate isn't coming from, so they're not really, I've been asking, give me a handful of people to work with, even with the Genesis project, so that we'll be able to train them up so that when we are not around and somebody asks, people can stop saying to them. Even last week, somebody called me and said they contacted RADA in a particular parish, and they're saying that it's not going to work. And so they don't have the knowledge to even have that conversation. So we need to put more pressure on some of these other spaces to do some training, because it is really a shame that you have to be importing people. If anybody really wants to do organic in Jamaica and they're really serious about doing it, we have everybody that is doing organic here is already busy on their own farm. Then you have to bring somebody from Earth University, or we should be able to work in our own sector and not have to bring somebody else in, right? We know our ecosystem and that's what should be done. But literally, this is what happened. There's literally very limited labor anymore because most of the people are gone to pick apples or tomatoes or something, and they're exploited. And so the few people that are left, they don't have the knowledge. And so you have to end up fighting the folks on to get somebody to work in the system because the knowledge isn't there.
One of the things,
Dorienne, and then I ask a question.
One of the things that we tried to do is to make an alliance between those people who go for farm labor and who are working on organic farms, because they come back with a great deal of knowledge. And we felt that it's a win-win for the countries who are a little bit sometimes ashamed of the way the farm workers are treated, but it's also that transitioning of knowledge that we can use. I was able to get two people to do large scale composting because they work on a farm in Ontario It's 800 acres, vegetable farm, and they're the ones who are in charge of composting. So they were able to go and do some work with JP. One of the problems is that we worked with ECO. They liked the idea. The Canadians liked the idea. Our people here liked the idea, but there wasn't enough money really to fund it. And yet it would be very important for those people who go away on farm labor and come back and treat it as though they're milch cows. They have to come with this and that and the other, but not rewarded because of their experience, not celebrated because of their knowledge, not making a mark in their communities who will listen to them because they know something else. I think it's something that we should pursue some more and find some way of building that linkage and seeing if we can, that's one way of working. Because I know the ones in Canada I can work with and identify, and it would only be those people who got a good report.
Right.
But I don't know people working in the US on organic farms, but maybe Nicola, that's something that you can do if there are people there. But if I had the list of names from a number of farms, and a lot of the farmers who go up from my area all have my telephone number saying, if you have a problem, you call me. I'm LinkedIn in Canada. So we might be able to try and explore that. We're going to have to find a pot of money because we want to be able to pay them to work as consultants.
Excellent, because it's very important, and especially around the compost piece, because that's the work that we've been doing with Genesis. So one of the questions I have is, how can JOAM remain relevant to the next generation of farmers and consumers? And this will be one of our closing, and then I'm going to open it up because I know that there are a number of people that really do want to ask some questions. So in terms of, you guys were there at the beginning, you see what's going on in the sector. How can we remain relevant? What are some of the things? And I'm going to ask each of you to share what you think. What do you think that we should be doing that we're not doing from your perspective? And I'm hoping that the us on the board are taking notes, right? Dorienne, you want to go first, and then I'll pass it along? Well, you're muted. You're muted. Unmute. Mm-hmm.
I think I went with some of those ideas because I think our outreach has to be more specific in the sense of hand-holding in different ways for our farmers. They really, really need that. They're crying out for it. And that matching of the returning farm workers who have knowledge would be very useful because it validates the whole kind of organic thrust and movement and lets people see it's not just a small group. I think we need to try and find some tools, which, I mean, this is what we've been doing, but we have to move up. We need some tools to help our farmers, both on the business side and also in terms of their record keeping, ease of record keeping. And we need to link the older farmers and the younger farmers. But the problem is, I think, a problem of how do we reward? Because a lot of the younger people can't just be volunteers. They're struggling too. They're hungry. So
one of the things we've tried to do over the years is to establish demonstration research plots in places like Case, Ebony Park, the Forage Club Ministry of Agriculture, because we feel that there is nothing better than seeing the actual thing in practice. But this has not been sustainable, and I think we probably, as Dorian said, probably a little pot of money to provide some support for this. So in particular, like the Forage Club, many hundreds of young persons who are being exposed to new techniques. And if we had a series of organic demonstration plots on their properties or on farmers' holdings to which they had access, I think this could help. And then we should document and probably provide some booklets. Even Nicola's source farm, I see that as an ideal place for an organic demonstration plot. I know you're trying to do organic all over, but there are specific practices that you would want to put onto that farm so that persons from all over could go there and see for themselves, because there's nothing better than seeing the actual thing in operation. It's much better than just reading about it. So those are some of my suggestions.
Yeah, I just want to endorse what my colleagues have said, and just to add that, it's just for JOAM to continue the process of trying to demystify organic agriculture. The people who are out there speaking against it don't have a clue what organic is. They seem to think that that organic agriculture is the conventional agriculture with organic inputs. We really need to Joe just has to keep working on that. And I agree with what Dr. Lindsay said. If you have some demonstration plots, and just having to watch it, because as someone who was involved in research with organic plots, you can see how the yield changes as the system improves. And we need to continue doing that research and just showing them, getting all our farmers involved as what they call citizen scientists, where they may not record it as formally as I might do, but they still will get some information, and that's the type of information that is also needed in terms of their record keeping. But we just need to take them one step at a time, and eventually, they will get there. And I would love to see us push to get back the local certification program, because I think that was one, the JOAM certification program that actually help them to transition. And then eventually, after they do that, then they may go for international certification.
Excellent, excellent. I think Raymond, I was missing for a minute, but your turn.
Building on what the others have said, I believe the Genesis project is an excellent launch pad that, if used effectively, can make the research that is tied to that project will address some of the questions that organic is not viable, organic makes no sense. The project has to work because it has to work, because we don't want the ministry to have the feeling that, they will never agree that they have not supported it to the extent that they should. So we have to have success. And that success must be documented properly and can be shared. Because one of the things that the ministry never ever seems to appreciate is that when you apply chemicals, whether it be fertilizer or pesticide, there's a cost to the environment. There's a cost, there's a health cost. We don't factor in those costs. So part of the Genesis project needs to show that this is the cost saving based on what we're doing. We have less people going to hospital with cancers. We have less persons with high blood pressure and other things like that. There's so many things that, but we have to show it to them clearly. This is what is possible. The other thing I think that we have to we have to transition from training to production.
Yes.
The whole of Jamaica is looking for production. And we have to have production. We have to find a way to get production. People keep calling, where can I get organic produce? And for us to be relevant, JOAM has to be able to have a long list of people where persons can get produce. So the trainings that we're doing in the various communities we have to find a way for those sites. Dr. Lindsay spoke about demonstration sites. Those are demonstration sites. We have to find a way for those sites to be copied by persons in adjoining communities so that the message, so we have to find some strategy to get it off the farm to everybody. Have them, maybe have some competition where you learn something, go try it in your farm and get some money and give them a prize for implementing. So we have to find a way, and most important, we have to have a way to hold people's hands. You can't tell people to go organic without the support. You have to hold their hand. Dorienne spoke about the farm workers. We have to speak to the persons who are doing that to coordinate it. We have organic farms. We must coordinate. Don't say, I had somebody who was trying to go overseas, and I said, try to go to an organic farm. And he couldn't dictate where he went. They just sent him somewhere. And I said, did you go to an organic farm? No. So we have to coordinate that, where persons can actually, if they want to learn, they go to an organic farm. And when they come back, we find a way to integrate them in the whole training structure. So
well,
that,
maybe Raymond, part of our policy dialogue has to be based on with the Ministry of Labor saying you are missing an opportunity. And so that we should put on our list of action, go and talk to them. Because I was talking from the other side.
Right.
We did talk about it, but it was ICA. We talked to the ministry, but we didn't talk to the Ministry of Labor. And that's a big gap.
And there are lots of farms out there that will take, and also they end up being treated better because the organic farming community tends to operate a little different than those other ones. So I think that's a great something that we can action. So there are people in the chat that would like to put up there are people putting up their hands. I'm going to open it up now for questions. Please do and unmute.
Just before you go, Nicole, some time ago, a group of us in part dispensation are trying to see through the AIC if we could identify a block of land with 50 or 100 acres where a number of persons could do organic production. That never worked out. And I see the minister suggesting that they need to get these agro parks in each parish. So the idea was to get an organic agro park. So instead of everybody worrying about protecting their borders, the farm would be contiguous, so you would not need to be putting barriers between each farm except for the perimeter. And then you could get critical mass in terms of the different products or organic, but there have been no takers, and hence I'm not certain. I've raised it many times, but we have not made any progress on that.
Hello, can I come in here? I put up my hand, but I haven't.
Go ahead, Donaldson.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Following on the work JOAM has been doing with special reference to Raymond in our area of the Rio Grande Valley, a number of linkages were formed between communities in the upper Rio Grande Valley, actually going over into St. Thomas in Hayfield. And based on that preliminary coming together of persons and forming the linkages, a cooperative was formed called the Rio Grande Maroon Heritage Preservation Cooperative Society. Aimed at, as the name implies, preserving that heritage, which is the heritage of the Blue and Jonquil Mountains National Park. All the communities involved now are buffer communities to the park, and therefore have a vested interest in preserving it. And we saw that the two arms of this cooperative should be agriculture sustainable agriculture, and community tourism. I just want to stress the fact that we are building on a foundation, because I always want to acknowledge the work which JOAM has done, even though time has passed and we may forget what has happened in the past. But to also point out that even when a start is made, oftentimes it leaves a spark which can continue to grow. Specifically, what we have been doing, we applied for grant funding to start a greenhouse project at the Windsor Primary School, first of all, with the aim that this should be a center for educating the population around in sustainable agriculture. Even if we cannot attain to the point of being fully organic, at least from day one, the principles should be understood and applied. And somebody mentioned the 4-H. The 4-H is involved in this as well. The 4-H members of the school have been involved in the process of the greenhouse operations. Based on that first experience, we applied for another grant, which we obtained to extend the same principle to Comfort Castle. In the Comfort Castle Primary School, where we are, in fact, right now setting up another greenhouse based on the same principle of trying to reach out to the community through the PTA, the 4-H club, the teachers, and everybody else concerned, so that we can start this kind of center. And of course, Raymond mentioned the importance of production. The idea being that if people can see real production taking place, it will in fact garner more interest in the long-term aims we have of changing the approach which farmers have been taking to how they do their agriculture. So I just wanted to update you on this aspect of what has been happening in my area in terms of JOAM's objectives.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all the work that you do. It's very important. And that's what it is. We need to just, it's a one cocoa full basket. And so sometimes it feels like we need, we do need a lot. There's a lot of work that needs to get done, but it's I always tell people it took a number of years for us to get to be this dysfunctional, right? Because there's a lot of dysfunction that we have to be begging people not to poison themselves. That's a mind shift that needs to happen. And so every time we get an opportunity to get one more person added to the mix is really important. I got the technology kind of failed around here and I was bumped off, but I wanted to speak to Dr. Lindsay's point about these larger scale agricultural endeavors. Yes, we do need production, but what we're finding is that to do those levels of production, you need staffing and you need to have inputs. And I think one of the things that even with the Genesis project is to kind of there's a lot of opportunities out there, whether it's making biochar or compost or any number of these amendments that are necessary that we could use, but you have to have somebody to produce it. So it's hard to now establish these large acreages without that support. So, let us take our time and walk, crawl sometime, and then we have to, start before we can run. But until we get that opportunity, then we would be importing again our fertility. And that's one of the reasons that we try to get some more information on the cover crops. Can we grow our fertility? And that means training a number of people how we need seeds, because the whole seed issue is a whole other story about how do we even get seeds for cover crops. These sectors, like, can we buy a truckload of compost? Can we buy enough biochar to do 5 acres, 10 acres, 20 acres, right? These are the kind of things. And so in that now, not just about the full production of organic, but all the amendments and things that we need to support it. So that's what I'd like to see us do a little bit more of, and also the training. Because I'm going around the island and I'm realizing that people do want to go into organic, but we need hand-holding and we need to be able to it's a holistic approach. You have to understand the numbers, you have to understand the crop plans, you have to understand the whole system design. And we're just having to take our time to kind of, and I feel like we're going to reach there, but we have to make sure that JOAM gives that support that's necessary. And I know
Nicola?
that we're gonna let somebody else. Wait, there's I think the
Yinka had her hand up, so she would be the next person, and then
okay,
Fern.
perfect. And thank you, Cecile, because you see me dropping off. So help us get through this. Thank you so much for that. So the next person that had their hand up.
Yinka.
Yes.
Hi,
Yes.
Yinka.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I think the demonstration plots starting in the 4-H clubs would be a good place to start. And why I'm saying that is because over the past 2 years, I've gone to many of the 4-H events, and you see the students, they're all excited and they show their work. And then at the end, there's a farmer's market. And one of the reasons I go is to see if I can get any organic produce to buy. But of course, who do I see at those events? The chemical companies. And they give away pesticide, herbicide, fungicide, all of these things as gifts. Once I want a gift, didn't know that was what I was going to get. I was hoping for produce, got a bottle of whatever it was that had glyphosate in it. And I'm saying now, I'm not going to use it. What do I do with it? And if these young people are being shown that this is the way to produce their products, that's what they're going to continue to do.
This is the only way they know, right? We have to get in there. Well, I would just actually speak to that 4-H thing because we met with Mr. Thompson, who is now head, and had a great conversation with him. And we're going to have a meeting with the Genesis work because we want to introduce the 4-H to this work as well. So he was very much open, and I think in the next couple of weeks we'll be having a meeting with him. And because the material is there, it's easy to share the way how the format is and doing some work along with them. But we really have to catch these young people because that's the only way, once they're in there, doing their thing, the chemical guys, and we also have to be at the table so that they also understand there's an alternative, and most people don't. So you're absolutely right that we have to get with them. Absolutely. Thank you so much for your comment. I think LaFern also.
Yes.
I have a question. This is very interesting. I wanted to know if you have original persons, if they ever did anything about the free copyright. Do you know how to free copyright something? Because your handbook, if you did the free copyright, then you can prove to that agency that you had the original there and you'd win it in court. And I give you an example. Years ago, University of the West Indies discovered that ganja helps to treat glaucoma. Israel came down, looked at it, and Israel has patented it. They got the information from UW. So one of the things that can happen that my brain is going forward as I'm listening to this is if you have anything written, when you do something, even some of these workshops that you're talking about, if we could record them, then what we need to do is get them written and mail the original, mail it back to the company, because the original stamp, when you go to court, shows that it is the date before the person who is testing you or arguing with you, your date comes first. Because we are oral culture, I see where a lot of the things are happening orally, but we have to remember that we are dealing with systemic cultures as well. And systemic cultures record everything, and then they take the profit. So my heart grew full when I heard this because I thought, oh my goodness, no.
Yeah, and I do believe that
LaFern, I think we could do that with the standard because I had wanted to take action, legal action, because I don't know how you can simply just tell people that you ask them to work with you and then you own.
Do you have anything dated of any of those conversations or even the original standards, all the research? Do you have it dated that's previous to when they started to put out their stuff?
We have the original standard that Dwight did. We also have all the emails inviting us to work with them to develop the standard for cross-Q.
Okay.
And that was why I said that to the head of the Bureau of Standards, said, you can't do this. But I tend to come from a legal family and I'm quite happy to go to court. Other members of JOAM were not.
Mhm. Yeah,
But I think we could try this.
Because and even some of the things you're talking about now is so interesting. And if you develop it, it has to be where you register, do something and register the copy back, but don't open that registered mail.
What I'll do, La Firme, if you have the time, I'll try and give you some of the background stuff that I still have online. Dwight probably has as well. Joe probably has. And I think it might be a shock to people, but we need to serve our farmers.
Yes.
They need us. It was Wilberforce who said, we cannot let them say that when they needed me, I was not there. I did not serve. And if we're going to change things, that has to inspire us.
And I also want to add, there are things that we're doing currently, even with the Genesis project, that we really need to make sure that we, hold on to the copyrights and those things, which I know that we haven't done. So we have, I'm just letting you know, that's my aunt, Aunt to the front. So you have work to do, right? And she's up there in Canada with you, Dorienne. So you can make the connection. We'll get you connected so we can get some of that beautiful work done. So thank you so much for that question. So it is the time. You see, I told you that this we have so much to talk about. We haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg. And so I know that we'll have to do this again. There also, is there anyone with this last question? And I'm going to ask us to wait, before we even go. Well, I'm going to ask, is there any more questions? That's first. And then we're going to tell you about, for those of you who have joined a little late and you don't know what else is going on for Organic October, we'll be able to share that with you. So any more questions for right now? One more question?
Just one point, Nicole. When you have been with the movement for over 30 years and you're not seeing any critical mass in terms of the production of organic produce, you become very patient. And that's why I'm saying, because we have all these agro parks and so forth, why can't we have one for organic, and persons who are interested in investing, they can work together as a group and then produce more organic products?
Well,
thank you.
I'm going to tell you about some stuff that we're going to be doing, and then that will support that. Okay. Support exactly what you're saying. So, okay. So I just wanted to, let's move to, I'm going to be talking about the different projects. Okay, there it is. Thanks, Michelle. Thank you for bringing that up. So we are going to be screening that movie at University of West Indies, and I'm really requesting for folks to show up, spread this flyer. I'll be putting the flyer out again, and just invite people to come over to the biology department so we can all, sit and watch it and have some popcorn, right? So we're going to be doing that. We also are going to be doing the water management course in Trelawney, and that's on the 23rd in Trelawney, and we'll also be doing it in Clarendon on the 30th. So we'll join Roger. He's gone out in the world and gotten a deep knowledge in terms of the subject matter. We really want him to come and share a lot of that information with us, and so that you guys will understand the lands that you have and how to really observe before we interact with it, really about that. So you can see the water management flyer there. We're going to be sending all these flyers around. And also there's a meetup with at the Ujima Farmers Market. You'll be able to come and, come out and hang out. Organic feed people are good people. And it's important for it to, I tell everybody, you have to know of your farmer. This is the time when everything's going on in the world. If you are not putting something every day in the ground, I'm really encouraging people to really get in their backyards, on their farms, and just keep the production, keep doing things, because we're going to see in a couple of months, we're seeing it now, right? We're seeing it now where we're going to need more production, because that cheap food that we used to be able to import, we can't do that anymore. We have a 12-month growing season. We should be planting things. So absolutely put things in, right? And if you doing seedlings and there's too many, share it with somebody else, right? You don't have to, if you're not able to access it, somebody else can plant that tree for you. Please do that work. So again, it's on the 18th. We'll be at the farmers market where we'll have some tastings. We'll be having a little bit of music. Please do come out and join us at the market. One other thing to just share, we have been so blessed. Well, it took a number of years. We have the Ujima group, which is a group of farmers. Ujima Farmers Market is the larger farmer market that people from all over the island come and is able to sell their produce there, right? So we verify. Then we also have the Ujima group that it started in St. Thomas, and we were asked to apply for a grant through JSEF, and we were told a couple of weeks ago that we had been given the grant. It's 5 years in the making of doing this thing, right? And so we've been awarded about 80 million to set up that distribution center, because what we are finding is that because right now we're in Kingston, Ujima Farmers Market is the main place that people can come if they want something verified, right? That's natural, or there are some certified organic products that are there, a few, right? And we want to do more of that work. So we are asking, we've gotten 80 from JSEF. This project is to really empower the folks in St. Thomas with a distribution center, 2 other post-harvest spaces. And the money that was in 2019 is not the same money now. So we're actually going to be doing a fundraising campaign where we want every single person that is Jamaican or love Jamaica to buy us a cup of coffee, right? Or give us at least $1, because the amount of people outside the US in the world that love Jamaica or are Jamaicans, if you buy us a cup of coffee or give us $1, we would have all the money we need to make sure that this is a big success, right? So this distribution center would be able to, when people come on and that are ill or they want just clean food, we'd be able to, create that box and send it out to them, and really help the farmers to be able to have a space to really distribute their products and not just be at the market on Saturday alone. So it's very important that you know that this is happening, and we're really blessed to get that opportunity to get that grant to really finally just develop a space that we can actually know that everything that's going to come out of that space is going to be healthy, clean food. It's very, very important. So you see the link is there. We went to another event a couple of weeks ago, and I got the minister and some people to at least, put a little bit of their money where their mouth is by putting that money in. So we have over 60 people on the call. So if you really want this movement to move, we have to support it, right? What we do is do a lot of talk shop and but are you really buying organic? Are you searching out where you can get clean food? Are you supporting the farmer? Are you going and volunteering for a day on that farm that farmer needs help? Are you making those connections? So I'm really encouraging people, let's not just talk about it. We have to put our energy. The money that we have is energy. And if you're not putting the energy in the right place, every time you buy something that you know is not clean, is really supporting that industry. And that's why those guys have money to give out chemical prizes, right? Where are you? I'm calling everybody out on it. I'm shaking everybody down. I'm like, yes, you have to support the movement. You support the movement by showing up at the workshop. You support the movement by supporting a farmer that might need a day's help, right? We go help everybody else. We can also go and say, who's that farmer? Who's a farmer that's farming organic? The demonstration site. Offer your services for half an hour. You'll be surprised. Maybe it's watering, maybe it's weeding, maybe it's something, and you're really supporting that. Are you also buying a product from those folks that are doing the good work? So I'm really encouraging us to not just talk about it, but actually really show up for the farmers that are actually doing this. So I am going to turn it over to our wonderful Johnson Samaj, who is one of our board members, and they're telling me I'm out of time. So Cecile, take it away.
I'm really just here to say thank you to the knowledgeable people who were there at the start. Sometimes we forget that we stand on the shoulders of others, and it was so good to hear some of the history today. I think we need a second session and perhaps a third to drill down on some of the issues, some of the things that are still plaguing us, some of the things that we have not yet been able to resolve. Want to thank you all, Dorienne, Dwight, Dr. Joe, Raymond, and you too, Nicola, for taking the time and being with us and sharing with us your memories. And it's so good to see that the commitment, the interest, the passion has not faded because, I think when we take up something like organic farming, natural farming, being committed to our environment, it really is a lifelong way of life. It's a way of being, it's a way of thinking, it's a commitment that doesn't just go away. And so I want to say thank you for being there at the start. Thank you for soldiering on, not losing hope. I know that, after so many years, it's easy to just kiss a teeth and say, "Chow me can't bother." Um, but I am really, really grateful. Well, certainly I can say when I joined JOAM, I just latched on to Dorienne. The amount of time I call her and say, "Listen, I've just selected you as the person I'm going to be asking questions." And she never said, "What's here?" And she always answered, always responded. Similarly, Raymond, I would say, "Mr. Martin, can you look on this picture for me and tell me what you think this is?" And sometimes he would say right away what it was and what the options were. Or sometimes he'd say, "I can't see so clearly. Take a different picture and send it back to me." So, as Nicola said, I mean, each of us can help somebody else. We may not have $1 million to plunk down on a table. We may not be able to spend a whole day at a location, but certainly if each of us, as our founders have done, contributes as we can and how we can, we will all get a little further along. And Dr. Lindsay, don't give up hope. Keep whispering in the right ears. You may actually be able to convince somebody who has the power to actually create that agro park. I mean, when I joined JOAM, there was, thought that was a thought. At some point, I saw it coming closer. So this might be the time. I think COVID was a good lesson for all of us. It was so interesting to see how quickly the world closed down and how people, I think, understood. If they're beginning to forget again, we need to remind them how quickly ships were literally on sea, couldn't come on shore, couldn't land. Places made decisions about keeping produce for their own populations. So don't get weary. Keep going. And thank you all. And for the people who joined, thank you so much. It's good to see the numbers. Please, next time, bring somebody on, invite somebody to join you. And as Nicola said, what are you eating? So if you take that with you through the week, each time you put a forkful or a spoonful to your mouth, or raise a glass or a teacup, think about where is this coming from? Can I make a different choice? Can I buy something from somebody who is as committed to clean and healthy as I am? Thank you. Nicola, you're muted. Please unmute.
Yes, sorry about that. I just wanted to acknowledge there are a number of people that left messages in the chat that we weren't able to get to all of them. We'll look through them, and if there's some specific things we need to respond to, I will try to do that. I also want to just mention that, next week we'll have Dr. Ben Israel on. He is an amazing herbalist, and he is obviously he's doing clean medicinals. So there's a whole conversation around that. I just want to mention that. So next week you'll see you'll be able to meet with Dr. Ben and if you have questions for him, he's an excellent educator and wonderful person. So just want to mention that as well. Yes, thank you so much, Cecile, for doing that. And again, I really want to thank all the guests and just all the people that showed up today. Really important for us to continue to do this work that we're doing. And it's really about all of us getting involved. We can't get disconnected anymore. We have to get connected and get connected to the natural world. So with that, I say have a blessed rest of the evening and a wonderful week. And we're hoping that you will take some of this away and start to think about how, a handful of people have really created a movement and we're all part of that movement. So much peace and blessings and have a good evening. Thank you so much.